in a weekend where Manchester City beat Manchester United 6-3, and we see another managerial casualty in the bloke who manages Wolves. I can't even remember his name. Bruno Lage, is it? Lag? I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
I told you he was bang average. He's gone now because we beat him. It's been an interesting weekend of football. 2 derbies, 2 great games, and I think 2 deserved winners. But Mike, let's start off London derby. It's always exciting. I don't think it was built up as much as it usually is, but that's because we've had a shitty international break. But how did you find it?
It's all right. No, absolutely loved it, mate. Love coming away, beating Spurs. You say about the build-up. I think there was more of a build-up than
really?
I've seen in previous seasons. Yeah. Obviously, coming towards the end of last year when we went to the Tottenham Stadium, there was a bit of a build-up, but I think that was more because of the occasion at the time.
Yeah.
I think we needed at least a point to guarantee us Champions League football. So there was a lot riding on this game. And there are some occasions where I feel like it's treated like a normal Super Sunday game. Do you know what I mean? If it's they've been okay matches, a lot of draws recently over recent seasons. Obviously, we beat Tottenham last season at home and then lost away. We're sitting on top at the moment, or we were at the time of the fixture, and there was a lot of pressure on us to say, well, can they cut it against one of the big 6?
Yep.
And we did. We absolutely battered them for I think about 70 minutes. It was great.
It was Thomas Partey's strike to open it was good. Was good. Obviously, Harry Kane scored 100 away
goal,
Premier League goal with a penalty. I think most of them probably are penalties. But yeah, did you ever fear that they were going to get back into the game?
Absolutely. Obviously, we scored the first goal. I think it was about 17 minutes into the game, and that was one of those ones. You've seen Thomas Partey try it so many times from outside the box, and I think he's scored only like 1 or 2 goals for us. I think one of them's been a header or whatever, and you always kind of wish one of those goals to go in.
Yeah.
And what a game for it to go in as well against your rivals. And as you said, top bins, bosh. And then I think it was about 10, 15 minutes later, we conceded the penalty. At that point, obviously they got their tails up a bit and started coming back into the game. And I think we were lucky that halftime came when it did, because they were on a bit of a momentum. We went into the break with Even Stevens come out after the break, and we started the second half as we did in the first half. Electric. Piled a load of pressure onto him. Gabriel Jesus with a little toe poke into the goal. A bit of a poor goalkeeping from Hugo Lloris. Great shot from Bukayo Saka, cutting in on his left foot as he does out on the right-hand side. Stung the palms of Hugo Lloris, and I think it was Emerson got in the way a bit, or there was a bit of confusion between those two, and it was Gabriel Jesus to follow up with or nicking it. So
gave it some of the Thierry Henry in the celebration as well, didn't he?
Yeah. There was the knee slide into the corner flag, and then the standing up, like giving it all that. I loved it, absolutely loved it. And then we see Granit Xhaka. What a revival he's had over the last couple of seasons. Been one of our most consistent players over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, since the shirt throwing incident against Crystal Palace, and he's been an absolute machine this season, especially. I'll be devastated if he gets injured, and obviously with the likes of Gabriel Jesus, I think him. Zinchenko, Thomas Partey, they've all seemed to have given the team a bit of a lift.
Yeah.
And there's a completely different dynamic this year with our team. And obviously, we've said it before, results breeds confidence.
Yes.
And we have got a lot of confidence at the moment. I think Liverpool is going to be an interesting game, but obviously we'll come on to that in a bit. Thoroughly thoroughly happy with the win,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that we North London is red, Sam.
Yeah, and in fairness, I think you benefited from there being a fair gap in between games, because I know players went and played football, but I think Tottenham are one of those teams, if you give them a stretch of 8-9 games in quick succession, they build on them. I think if you chop and change the season about and have big breaks like we have done recently, because obviously the Queen dying and the international break, things like that, I think they're not the sort of team who can just turn it on. They have to build into it, and once they get going, they're going to be hard to stop. So it's good that obviously we've got a World Cup in a couple of weeks. So hopefully Tottenham can get fucked even more. I think that's the only political correct way to put it. I don't want to beat around the bush. And then obviously we see Wolves' demise. Now here's the thing: I've said they're bang average all season. They were bang average against us. We weren't anything special. We played a bit more positively. We had Skamaka on. Cornet started, although he went off. And it was like one of those that it was like, well, once I thought we were going to lose, but once it started, it's like, no, we've won this. We've won this. I was quietly confident throughout. And all I'm going to say is Cahill cost us £10 million. He played right back. He's been playing centre back. But what a signing from PSG. He's one of those they bought and he's just rotted on their bench and in the reserves. Phenomenal. Absolute phenomenal player. Up and down a pitch like there's no tomorrow. But yeah, and then so Wolves decided to sack their manager in the middle of another big derby game, where we see Manchester City dismantle Manchester United. Now, some would say United have come on because the last time they conceded 6 goals to City, they only scored 1. They scored 3 this time. All of them could have been averted, I think, by City. I think it could have been 6-0. I actually think it probably could have been more. But they come out at some blistering pace in that first half, and oh my God. Like, just as Gary Neville said, well, Haaland hasn't touched the ball much. He scored twice in about 8 minutes. And it's just the speed that they were playing and the intensity they're playing. It's like if they did this all game, every game, which they could do, everybody else is fucked. There's no stopping. I don't know how you would match it, unless you man mark everybody and like have a lucky day. But yeah, so Haaland got his third hat trick in 3 games, which has never been done in the Premier League. The stat they kept showing it under Ronaldo was that Ronaldo's played 253 games and got 3 hat tricks. And Haaland's played 8 and got 3 hat tricks, and that's Premier League games. Like, that's
disgusting.
Here's the thing, right? But when the rumours were him signing, did I not say he's going to score 40 goals this season, and they're going to win everything? No one would take my bet, and I think they knew.
But you know, I'm actually surprised. I mean, even if they gave you like, not so much ridiculous odds, but like evens or something. Do you know what I mean? Just something. But at the same time, I appreciate it's a money making business for them.
But how many players?
It can't be seen as a gamble.
Yeah. How many players have scored 40 Premier League goals in one season? I don't think it's ever been done, has it?
Nope.
So for them, surely
Mohamed Salah's got the highest. I think it was like 33.
Yeah. So surely for them, they should be looking at that going, fucking, that ain't gonna happen, is it? Come on, surely not. But he's a machine, isn't he? He's a machine. The bit that concerns me is what his dad has said. Obviously, his dad played for Manchester City, but what he said is he ain't going to stick around Manchester City for long. He'll be there 2 or 3 years, as he has been with Dortmund and he was with Mulder, because he wants to play in all of Europe's top 5 leagues. So I think, unfortunately for him, he could move, but he could only really move to PSG, who won't want to let him go once he's signed there. I don't think they'll really want him, because Mbappe's sort of director of football now. He ain't going to want to play second fiddle. Real Madrid, he could go there and have a successful couple of seasons, but they're not going to want to let him go on the cheap. Not that Manchester City will want to let him go on the cheap. And then he's been to Bayern Munich, and then you got like Juventus maybe, but they're not going to be able to afford him, I don't think. Once he scores for over 40 goals this season, and he goes, I could be the Premier League top goal scorer in 3 years. Like, I might just stay here and claim every record there is going. I feel like the opportunity to become the world's greatest player, and there'd be no question whether he can do it in the top league or the hardest league to play in. Why not run the game?
Exactly, and it's good that you mentioned that, actually, because there's always been that question mark, isn't there, about the difference between Ronaldo and
Lionel Messi, yeah.
So Ronaldo's done it in the Premier League, he's done it in the Italian league, he's done it in the Spanish league. It's whereas Messi's only done it in the Spanish league, really, and obviously he's done it with PSG. But
yeah,
you're kind of buying into.
But he's not
winning the league.
He's not been phenomenal with PSG. I don't think he's not. No. He's not got the same numbers, has he? And considering that's a lesser league with essentially one team in it now.
But at the same time,
he's not at peak, is he?
No, exactly.
But yeah, so that happened, and Manchester, and that's when Wolves decided to put out their message of we've sacked the manager, and I think that was to try and get, I think that was trying to get it to disappear within the headlines of Manchester City. Manchester City are just on a different level. But Ronaldo, you see him be a bit annoyed. Obviously, Casemiro didn't start, but as he come on with Martial, they started to get back into the game a bit. But Ronaldo didn't come on. Now, he's the world's biggest name. Obviously, that's the manager putting his foot down. But Rashford was a lonely figure in that first half and didn't get any service, didn't get anything. Do you think Ronaldo could have changed that or could have become a polarising figure for the Man City to go, we need to put another player on him just to make sure?
Potentially. I mean, it's always going to be a case of if, buts, and maybes.
Yes.
You know what I mean, we never know. I think with Rashford, he has shown previously, obviously he's got the pace, knows where the goal is, and you can see that Ten Hag is trying to build something at Manchester United. And it seems to be kind of in a similar vein to Mikel Arteta in the sense that going for the youth.
Yes.
And we know, obviously, there was issues at the start of the season. Ronaldo wanted out, made no real effort to kind of hide the fact that he wanted out, but has kind of been stuck there. So, I mean, you may see, or you may be seeing some of that toxicity that we've talked about previously within the dressing rooms, or he's not pulling up trees within training. But the difficulty that you have with that is that you're playing a player an exorbitant amount of money over one season. But I kind of get it because we had obviously a similar situation with Aubameyang. And it may be that come January, he'll be able to have conversations with other clubs.
Yep.
I mean, with his physicality and his fitness, I think he's got at least another 1-2 years, even if he went over to the MLS. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a different league over there as well. He'll get paid ridiculous amounts of money going over to the MLS.
Yeah.
And that's possibly where we'll see his career. But I don't think he's going to get featured much more.
No, and
unless there's injuries.
The bit that gets me is last year they would have been relegation fodder without him. He was their top goal scorer. He got 21 goals last year, I think, over all competitions. So for them, I think it's just a phenomenal bloke to sit on the bench. I know, as you said, he wanted out. I don't know why they wouldn't sell him. I think in January we may see him travel to Chelsea. I know Bohi has said he wants him, and there's been some rumour that's why Tuchel was got rid of, because he didn't want him, and the owner said, no, we want him. You have the players that I want. I own this football club. And I think he could do a job at Chelsea, you know.
With Aubameyang?
I think Aubameyang will not be long for that club. I know he scored at the weekend and he did look on form for how he did in that season at Arsenal, but he did in the first half of the season for Barcelona. I think he's one of those that will come in, I don't know how long the contract that he's on.
I think it was on 1.5 years, possibly.
Yeah, so even so, it's like
no, it was a year's contract with an option to extend that at the end of it. Right. That's what it was.
So if you get Ronaldo in January, you've only got to pay him 6 months, and then it's like, right, see you later. Thank you very much. Goodbye. So, could I see Ronaldo going there? Yes. Will he make a big difference? I don't think he'll make a big difference, but it'll be a focal point, certainly. And with Graham Potter at the wheel, getting everyone else to be astute in defending and marking and running about, it could work. I mean, the reason Brighton struggled so much, I think, is because they couldn't get that big striker. You got one of the best in the world. I know he's old, but he's still one of the best in the world. Mm. Could it work? Who knows? But we did make some predictions. What were those predictions? Because I cannot remember.
Okay, so Arsenal versus Tottenham. You had 2-1 to Spurs. I had 2-1 to Arsenal.
Yep.
And do you know what? I'm so glad because I nearly flip-flopped on that. I nearly gone with a Spurs win on that one, but I'm so glad I did. So you had 2-1 Spurs. I had 2-1 Arsenal. The score was 3-1. So that's 0 points to you, 1 point to me. Then we had West Ham versus Wolves. You had 3-1 to Wolves because you were worried about the way that they've been playing.
Yeah.
So they've been bang average, so they'll probably turn up against you.
Yep.
So you had 3-1 to Wolves. I had 2-1 to West Ham. So it's a point to me because it was 2-0, wasn't it?
It was 2-0, yeah.
So it's a point to me, 0 points to you. So for the totals this week, Ian, you are on 0 points. I am on 2. So that takes the season totals to... Ian, you are still on 17, and I have now moved up onto 19 points. Who's coming home? Who's coming home? Who's coming? The trophy's coming home. Telling you, mate, it's coming back.
We'll wait and see about that. I don't think so. But we do have 2 more games to predict. So if you haven't already, when we announce what these games are, go over to the YouTube channel, press the subscribe button, and make sure that you put your predictions in the comment section below.
Yeah, boy. So obviously we have got the European games this week as well, but focusing purely on the Premier League for our predictions.
Yes.
You have got Fulham on Sunday at 2:00, and we have got Liverpool this weekend.
So, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
We're at home.
Yes.
So the interesting thing is we're playing obviously in Europe. The team that did play in Europe are now playing in the Premier League, bar Areola, sort of. So we could see a bit of a mixed bag in that sense. But Fulham, they started the season really, really well. Recently, they've been on a bit of a dampener, I think. They've not been able to keep it up, which is sort of what we expected. On the other hand, we've picked up a bit of form, and we weren't phenomenal against Wolves, but we were a lot more positive. Obviously, Jared Bowen broke his finger, but I don't think that will keep him out. I'm gonna go with positive vibes for once. I'm gonna go another 2-0 to West Ham, another clean sheet. Fabianski for once, actually, I thought was pretty good. You don't hear me say that very often. We made a couple of good saves against Wolves, but I think we'll have too much for Fulham, and we will win 2-0.
Okay, I do agree. I think you will win. I thought you were very, very positive. And I said to you last week, didn't I? I said this will be the game where you get the upturn in your form, as in the game against Wolves.
Yep.
And I was right. I think I'm going to go for the same scoreline as I did, because Fulham do have some good players. They have caused a few upsets already this season in terms of draws and wins. And I think I'm going to go for 2-1 for this one.
Fair enough. That leads us on to Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
So Liverpool travel to the Emirates Stadium. It's nice that we've got 2 home games on the bounce. Although saying that, I was just going to say I think playing in Europe this week might be our downfall, but obviously Liverpool have got the Champions League as well.
Yep.
But they do get an extra day's recovery or an extra couple of days of recovery whenever they're playing. However, we've said it before. In fact, no, I'm not even going to take credit for this. You've said it before. Liverpool are not the same team without Mane.
No, they are not.
Not even the shadow of the team.
Even with all the asthma drugs.
Yeah. And do you know what? I'm kind of bewildered by it because I can't understand that they've got effectively the same team as they've had for the last few years.
Yep.
Now, it may be the case that they run into the ground and obviously they won or they lost by a point one season. They won it, and then they lost by a point in another season. So they may have run themselves absolutely ragged into the ground and not got the rewards that they should have done. But when you've got a team like Manchester City, it does make it very difficult for a lot of teams around them. But do you know what? I do fancy our chances on this one because Liverpool have been so ropey this year. They can't defend. They're leaking goals. We're not seeing Salah hitting the same forms that he's done. Obviously, they've got Nunez and Luis Diaz. But from stuff I've seen on training clips and just their overall performance, I think we do have the ability to tear them apart this year.
Yep.
And it's not very often I've said that, especially in the last 5-6 years. Obviously, they were 2-0 down against Brighton, I think it was at the weekend. And then, obviously, through the 2-goal advantage away, and ended up going in front for the first time. And then Trossard come up right at the end and scored the equaliser late into the game. So whereas we used to see Liverpool grinding out results before, they're kind of grinding results out, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So instead of going for the win, it's either for the draw or conceding the win for a draw. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I feel like I've just waffled a lot there.
No.
Anyway, my prediction. I think we'll see a rotated squad for the Europa League this week. We'll see a lot of the fringe players come in, therefore resting some of the main players that we have got for this fixture. Obviously, it's very important that we still keep the advantage at the top of the league.
Yep.
I'm gonna go for a 3-2 on this one, I think.
Fair enough. Do we know who Liverpool have got in the Champions League? Off the top of your head,
I can.
Was it on
Not
a
off
win?
the top of my head, but I can find out.
They are playing, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really good at it.
Liverpool got Rangers. Of course.
So Rangers, known for a big tackle, they're in reasonable form as well. Here's the thing: are you going to go to Martinelli and to everyone else, Saka, whoever's Zinchenko, go and take the game to Trent Alexander-Arnold? He's having a torrid time. He can't defend. Run at him. Run him ragged, because that's what Trossard did, and he got a hat-trick. I think Brighton were unlucky because they scored an own goal, didn't they?
Yep.
I think Liverpool were lucky against Everton that VAR was paid off in that game because they should have lost that one. I think this could be the game where we see Klopp get the sack. And I know this is sort of, but some people say, well, Tottenham's not really the big test, is it? You lost against Manchester United, you beat Tottenham, but they're bottle jobs, we all know that. You got Liverpool. I think you're going to go and beat them 4-0. Well, no. I think they're going to score 4-1. And I think you're going to take advantage of it, but you're going to be able to keep the ball better than Brighton. And just once you go ahead, coast a bit like City did, and that's where you'll concede. I can't see Liverpool fan. They've got to play a full strength squad against Rangers. If they lose to Rangers and then they come into you, that's really dodgy ground. So they've got to throw everything at that game, and that will tire some of those players out. and that's where you'll take advantage. Obviously, I've said it before, Mane is a big miss to that team. He's such a selfless player with the ability to score. But also, it's Klopp's 7th season, which he's never done well anywhere. He's never done 7 seasons, or 6, I don't know, I can't remember. But it's the same season where he fell apart at Dortmund, he fell apart at Maine, and now he's falling apart at Liverpool. He's getting sacked this season. He might make it to the World Cup, but if they fall to the bottom half this week, which they probably will if they lose to you, I think he's got to go. How can you say, oh yeah, let's stick with him? We're bottom half. We're falling further away. The quality of the football is really bad. We've got some results which are not good. And actually, again with the Rangers, if Rangers can squeak out a draw or even a win, they're struggling in the Champions League as well, and that's not a good look for a team that want to be known as the best in the world. But yeah, 4-1. I don't think you'll quite keep them out, but I think you'll go on a bit of a rampage. Not quite a Man City rampage, but a little bit.
Do you know what? It wouldn't actually surprise me if we did what's happened. So there was an interesting stat that I saw come up on the Spurs game that when we have scored the first goal, I think we've won, what was it, like in the last 22 games or something stupid, we won 17, drawn 3 and lost 3, or do you know what I mean? Something like that. And if Gabby Jesus scores, that's a game that we're not, I say guaranteed, obviously tongue in cheek, but he's gone like something stupid like 45 games now where he's scored and not lost that game.
Yep.
So providing he gets on the score sheet, I think we'll be laughing. But it wouldn't surprise me if we see some doubling up from the Liverpool defence and try and shut him out. But if we stick with the same formation, it wouldn't surprise me if in the second half we go for something like a 3-5-2, and then we've got 2 players up top, so Eddie and Gabby Jesus as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think Liverpool's weakness there is if they try and play deep, then the player's not used to it. They're going to be out of position. They're going to be thinking someone else is going to pick up the player. That's where the gaps will come. If they try and play as they have been, the confidence isn't there. The fitness doesn't seem to be there. And again, Robertson is still pretty good, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, you could put him in the same category as Harry Maguire at the minute. I think he can't defend to save his life. Push him into midfield, make him a winger. Creatively phenomenal, but is a liability at the back.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think I said it last season, actually, when Arsenal played Liverpool last season. There was kind of like this dirty side to Trent Alexander-Arnold that I don't like. And I've seen him do it a couple of times where you can see he's getting kind of run ragged. And then you start seeing like the sloppy challenges coming in, elbows flying around and all this sort of stuff. And it only takes one of those moments. I mean, we saw it with Emerson Royale with his challenge against Martinelli. It was a frustrated challenge. And that could be, I'm not saying, luckily, it wasn't, but it could have been far serious or far more serious than what it was. And that's someone's season's over. Just because you're having a shit day or whatever. Yeah. So there's part of me that hopes he doesn't even play or comes on as a substitute, because whatever's happening with Liverpool at the moment is clearly not working. They've got 2 wins, 4 draws, and a loss. Yeah. Which for Liverpool standards is not good enough, and I'll be very surprised. You know when we did the predictions at the start of the season to where Liverpool would finish. Yep. I think you were more convinced than I were that they would finish outside the top 4. Yep. But I don't think it's going to be possible already. I think if we win, we go 17 or 14 points above them. Yeah. Already. Oh, yeah. That's and here's the thing. They signed a great young player from, I want to say, it was from Aberdeen, Calvin Ramsey, who is currently out injured. He's right back. If he wasn't out injured, I would put money on it. Trent wouldn't be in the team
because he's got the same creative ability. He's younger, but defensively he's much more solid. And I think Trent's done well, but he's a winger, isn't he, or a central midfielder? He's not a wing back. You can't trust him to track back anymore and make that challenge. And that's why I think, looking at World Cup squads, you have to go with a Reece James or a Kyle Walker or a Wan-Bissaka, because defensively they are better. Going forward, yeah, put him up there. He's definitely one of the more creative players we've got. But you've got to have the whole package. You got to have points in every area to be a fantastic player. I know Liverpool fans will be reeling at this, because how dare you say that about Trent Alexander-Arnold? He's the best young 19-year-old player ever. It's going to be a bit like bloody Jesse Lingard. He's a good upcoming youth prospect, even when he's 36. Do you know what I mean?
Jack Wilshere.
That's it. But yeah, so we will get there with it. But yeah, I think maybe, just maybe, we need to try and get a special guest on next week to see what the reaction is, and especially if they lose, what he thinks they go from there. So maybe we'll make some inquiries whether that's possible or not.
I think we should.
But yeah, so
ye olde blast from the past.
Yeah, so I don't know what else is going on in the world of football. But have you got anything else to add?
No, nothing from me, mate.
No. So on that note, Manchester City are currently chasing you, and that's not a team I want following up. But West Ham are no longer in the relegation zone. So until next week, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
And we will see you very, very soon.